Hey guys, Robin here, and yeah, it's been a really, it's been a really long time. Yeah, that's primarily been because I've been having to deal with the winter weather nonsense, and since my job is outdoors, I haven't really had the time nor the will to watch the film and review it. But that's all about to change because I'm back from my hiatus and I have picked a really good film to come back with. Now, as many of you out there may know, from 1989 to 1996, HBO had a TV show called Tales from the Crypt that was basically, and it was an anthology TV series, kind of like The Twilight Zone and The Outer Limits and each season of American Horror Story, where like each season or episode told a completely different story with a different cast of characters. And now they were adapted from these old EC horror comics from the 1950s, such as Tales from the Crypt, The Vault of Horror, and The Haunt of Fear. But what you may not know is what but is that in 1972, a British film studio named Amicus Productions made a Tales from the Crypt movie, which, like the show, is an is an anthology, and this movie takes five stories from those old books and All Through the House, which was later adapted into an episode of the HBO show. Reflection of Death. Okay, Reflection of Death. Uh, the name of the third story escapes me, but it stars the legendary Peter Cushing. The fourth story is it's essentially a retelling of the classic cautionary tale, The Monkey's Paw, a fact that is referenced numerous times in that segment itself, and the and the fifth and final story is called Blind Alleys, and that one was also adapted into an episode of the show, though the show adaptation uses a different title of Revenge is Nuts. Now, now the and in fact, now it does say on the back that this film inspired the hit series. I'm not sure how truthful that statement is because I haven't really been able to find much to confirm that this show was the basis for those comics because Robert Zemeckis and Richard Donner and Walter Silver, they would have grown up during the run of EC Comics' like various horror titles, so I feel that they were more adapted from those comics rather than this film. But this film is it's a very good horror anthology. I would call it a prime example of classic British horror cinema. And 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 aside from Peter Cushing, the film also stars Joan Collins, Ian Hendry, Nigel Patrick, and the Crypt Keeper is played by Sir Ralph Richardson. But unlike the Crypt Keeper from the TV show, which was a wisecracking animatronic puppet, the Crypt Keeper in this film is he's more refined. He's not a puppet. He's played by Sir Ralph Richardson, and he more resembles a monk than a kind of demonic puppet. But anyway, so now this film is now one thing need to take caution is this film is rated PG, but keep in mind this is a 70s PG, and films that were rated PG in the 70s include films such as Jaws, Poltergeist, and even Temple of Doom, the film that was responsible for the creation of the PG-13 rating, was rated PG because that was from a time when PG actually did mean parental guidance suggested. Unlike nowadays, where PG is mainly reserved for children's films such as Frozen 2, Troll movie, Angry Birds movie, and all that crap. But yeah, this is like balls to the wall horror now because it's able to get away with like darker stuff. Like for example, we see a heart like after it had been torn out of someone's chest, and well, this copy that I saw didn't have it, but the recent Blu-ray does put in some additional footage of exposed intestines. And in fact, this movie is on YouTube, so I will include a link to the in this video's description because I highly recommend this film. In fact, the following year, Amicus actually made a follow-up anthology film called The Vault of Horror, although none of the stories in that one were actually taken from the Vault of Horror comics. But one story does feature a painter, played by the fourth Doctor Who himself, Tom Baker, and which is something for you to look forward to. And this movie was also directed by Freddie Francis, who is among the legends of Hammer's like horror films. Like he was a very common name to see under the directed by credit of Hammer's old horror films. So you have Peter Cushing, an actor well known an actor well known for his performances as Dr. Victor Frankenstein in Hammer's Frankenstein films, and as Dr. Abraham Van Helsing in Hammer Studios' Dracula films. So, but however, but however, most people know Peter Cushing better as Grand Moff Tarkin in the original Star Wars. He also appeared in Rogue One, created by CGI using Peter Cushing's likeness because Cushing had passed away in 1993. And speaking of Peter Cushing, his character in his story is a widower who refuses to move out of his house because his wife had passed away. And there's a lot of truth there because when making this film, Peter Cushing did indeed lose his because before he made this film, Peter Cushing did lose his wife to emphysema, and they had been married since 1943. And Cushing really wasn't the same afterward because he was so close to her. In fact, there's scenes where his character is trying to communicate with his dead wife. You can hear the sadness in his voice, and his hands are kind of trembling as he's using an a Ouija board. And and like in real life, Cushing's character's wife's name is called Helen. So Peter Cushing in that scene, he's not acting. He was genuinely sad because he missed his wife that much. In fact, you can kind of it's a very emotional performance. I mean, you can kind of tell I'm getting a bit choked up just talking about it. But anyways, yeah, it's just this is a really great anthology film. I highly recommend this, and basically, I've told a couple of friends of mine, like, hey, are you aware? Like, hey, do you know about the Tales from the Crypt show HBO had? And they're like, yeah, what about it? And I told them, well, in 1972, there's a Tales from the Crypt anthology film, and I tell them a bit about it, and they seemed very interested in watching it, and yeah. Although I must warn you, if you are interested in watching this film, do not watch the trailer for this film because the trailer spoils a lot because the trailer spoils the ending of a few stories and it also gives away the big twist at the end. So so yeah, just don't watch the trailer. It's just best to just watch the film itself blind. And this tales now as for this film's music, well, it doesn't have the classic Danny Elfman score, but it does have the legendary Bach's Toccata and Fugue in D minor being played over a church organ through the opening credits, and it's very well done. Now, each of these characters, they have all committed like some kind of a they've all sinned like they were greedy, they killed someone, they caused someone to take their life, etc., etc. but um but karma comes in and just they get their shit ruined. This one character, Mr. Rogers, is treated is set to is appointed to the superintendent of a retirement home. And despite what his name would imply, it is not a nice day in the neighborhood for these poor blind people because he's just neglecting them. He's just cutting corners. Their food is shit. The heat's not on at night because they're freezing. And I had another reason to hate him because he has this really cute German Shepherd, Shane. We got a close up of his dog. I noticed that Shane didn't have a collar. Shane had a choke chain, and I hate people who put choke chains on dogs. So what happened to him is so satisfying because, God, like, but this film is however, this film is being a product of the 70s. There's a lot of like bright colors, like bright pink and orange and other such colors on the walls of the house in the first story that may be a bit gaudy today, but this is a very good anthology film. I highly recommend it, and it is just you get 5 stories for the price of one, and I'm I have a little project in mind for April called Anthology April, where I'll be reviewing where I intend to review various anthology films. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and I will try and have more reviews out soon. So thank you all for watching. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon in the near future. Peace.